Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Wow. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Pat. Great to be here with Nancy Monson joining me here today. We got a great show. This is so seriously important for all of us because we get to a place in our lives and we don't really understand, where we are, why we're living here, what our purpose is, what's next. So today, understanding the deeper process and purpose of that midlife passage with my very special co-host, Nancy Monson. The reason that this is important is because we have this notion about midlife, and we think it's a certain age. Now, I bet if you put 10 people in a room, you probably would get 10 different, different points in time in their life that they felt like this is what was happening. So today we're going to explore this because this is what Nancy does. She's also the creator of Everyday Spirituality, and it's the home of Soul Purpose Advocate, her work, her mission, her purpose. But as an advocate of the soul, she focuses on many things. How do we express ourselves? How do we accept ourselves? But also, she is someone that has absolutely tapped in to the importance of a midlife passage and how this becomes one of the most important and powerful opportunities for us to have our potential come to the forefront. Now, it is not a time, I don't believe, for many people that you just kind of roll over and say, yep, I'm done. Today's show is about meeting you where you are. Maybe you are done, but what if you're not? Maybe there's a place that you just do not understand about yourself, about the passage that you're in, and how to move beyond it. For those of you out there, this is a show for you. You have questions about that, and I know that I've heard from so many of you talking about, well, wait a minute, I don't know what I should do. Should I do this? Should I do that? I'm not sure why I went and got that Reiki certification. I just don't know how to step out. So today is all about that. Nancy, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Pat. I'm happy to be here too. Great to hear your voice.
Yeah, let's talk about midlife. Can you talk about what that is and what that means for people? And what I mean by that is it's taken on different meanings for us at different points in time in our life, right?
Yes.
So midlife to one person may mean one thing. Midlife to another may be another. It mean another. My grandfather, he didn't quite get the whole thing. He was 80 and he was still saying he hadn't hit midlife yet.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the number of years that we've traveled around the sun. I mean, age is basically just a counting of how many times we've traveled around the sun. It's really and again, I go back to Carl Jung because my spiritual guidance training is all based in an interfaith approach that's founded in transpersonal psychology and depth psychology, which came out of Carl Jung's work. So basically what's happening, understanding the deeper purpose and process is our soul is awakening us. It calls us at some point when our ego has developed enough, and each person's unique in that journey, the soul calls us to individuate. And the ego needs to be a certain level of resilience. It needs to have developed a certain maturity so that it can undergo the deconstruction of what it has been so that it can be reconstructed into a greater expression, a more alchemically, a more alchemical expression, a greater, more golden expression of the soul's full potential. And so we can have several of these types of experiences, but there's usually one that's more profound, more earth-shattering in the sense that it can blow up our lives in ways that we never would have expected. Mm-hmm. It can happen early. I've had some people come to me as early as in their mid to late 30s, and some people as late as their 60s come when they really feel like, okay, the ground is not stable anymore that I'm standing on. My life has totally come apart. I really need to figure out what's happening and how to navigate this. And that's really the soul saying it's time to awaken.
Mm. So, when we think about this, we have different views about midlife passage, midlife transition, midlife this, midlife that. Mm-hmm. Does this passage or transition have a purpose? And if it has a purpose, we think about it as a purpose from the material world, right? I had a friend say to me not too long ago, Nancy, like, you know what, I'm getting ready on that midlife. So, and that's really important. I said, well, why? She said, well, I'm going to give myself permission to go get a facelift. So for her, the midlife transition is about that. What is the true purpose of the midlife passage?
So the true purpose, and this is why I felt so compelled to bring this wisdom forward, because it's not it's not talked about very much. It's not well written about. I mean, I haven't found very much of anything in the literature that talks about what's happening at a deeper soul level, our essence. And the challenge that we run into is without understanding that our soul is calling us to bring out a greater expression of who we are, the full potential that we were born to experience, we can make up, and with all of the the sort of the societal expectations about what happens in life and how to live your life, we can end up looking at the midlife transition as a superficial transition. It's about getting a facelift or getting a new car or trading in, for a younger partner or going back and reliving dreams. I mean, that can be a superficial expression of it, and the ego tends to identify with those because there's not a lot of awareness or understanding of, okay, the soul is really calling us to bring out a greater expression, all of our talents and gifts. And without that understanding, we're grasping at what it really is. And that's why I really feel compelled to bring this wisdom out.
Mm. I like the word you use, grasping. Let's talk about that first. What does grasping look like? I know you work with people, you work with organizations. I know that you work with so many people. What has grasping looked like in the way it shows up in the material world? I know for me, it was discontent. It was a point in time where I just started to be irritable, as opposed to grateful for this job that I had that was paying me a phenomenal salary. Things just didn't look the same. What are some of the signs?
Yes. Well, all of those things that you said are signs. So there are internal signs and external signs that show you're just starting this process. Lack of energy to hold your life together. So like this lethargy or listlessness, being bored, feeling drawn to spend a greater amount of time alone, limited motivation to start a new project, uninspired by my work or my career, feeling adrift in your life without, like I said, you don't have this solid grounding, feeling discontented from life or relationships. And you can also, a common one that women, if they're also having their soul midlife at the time when they're going through their menopause transition, that can show up as unexplained emotional volatility. I know when I went through that, I found that I was experiencing a lot more outbursts of anger, which I never have experienced in my life. And it's this feeling of discontent and putting up with, and Jean Shinoda Bolen talks about in some of her writings on on midlife transition for women, that we're not willing to settle anymore. And so what happens is the settling that we've done in the first part of our life to be quote unquote successful, or to live whatever model we have adopted that is an outer model that we've adopted to be, instead of living from our inner truth, that anger can come out, that frustration, that emotional volatility comes out as an expression of we're not willing to tolerate that. So there's these internal signs that are good signposts for letting someone know, oh gosh, there's something else going on here. It's not just a passing thing.
Yeah. And you know what? We're going to talk more about these signs, because sometimes it's very difficult to really detect in our own nature what is happening. I mean, what if you're in your 20s and you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I'm listening to this show right now, and that's the way I feel now. Do you dismiss it? Do you move on? Do you attribute it to something else? Well, that's what this show is today all about. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what does it look like to move through the labyrinth, this idea of a deeper process. How do we look at the purpose of the midlife passage? How do we do it in a way that truly taps in to the direction that our soul is inviting us to take? Let's take a short break. When we'll be back, we'll tell you about a great opportunity that we have for all of you out there, an upcoming event that Nancy is part of, but most importantly, how you can work with her directly so that you are able to walk the path that you are meant to walk. Let's take a short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet.
Hi, I'm Tim Darter.
And I'm Steve Kramer.
Join us on Spirit Fire Radio. Discover how to add the mechanics of meditation to your day.
And watch yourself connect in a whole new way. Find the amazing moments in life's routines that often pass us by. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio.
Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. for your weekly guide to practical mindfulness. And to learn more, visit www.spiritfireradio.com.
Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light, from author and healer Francine Vale, is available now. Through Francine's life story, we learn how imperative it is to love one another. Once this simple truth is learned, peace on earth will prevail. Song of the Heart is a life lived and a story told for this purpose. To learn more about Francine and her amazing gifts, or to order your copy of the book today, visit angelsandlightbeings.com.
Have you ever tried to make lifestyle changes but had difficulty following through? Imagine what it would be like to get up each morning with energy, clarity, and motivation to tackle the day. If you want to get past limiting barriers that are preventing you from living your best life, join holistic health and wellness coach T. Carrie Mitchell each month on the Dr. Pat Show, or visit lifestyle120.com today and start to receive the personal attention you deserve.
Holistic Medical Center is where you find it all. A healthy space with doctors who care, see, and listen to the whole you. Hi, this is Dr. Darvish. If you have not found an answer to your chronic symptoms, you will find answers here at Holistic Medical Center. Our doctors find the root cause of your symptoms and guide your body towards healing naturally. We transform lives from within. Visit drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
A word of caution: if you prefer the status quo and you are not interested in improving every aspect of your life, this book will trigger the shift out of you. The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens is available now. Author Colette Steffen brings the powerful knowledge and life-changing energy and empowerment from the radio airwaves to the pages of her new book. To get your copy in paperback or ebook, visit thetruthисfunny.com today.
Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky now. Call 908-500-1474 and visit skyofangels.com.
Wow, thank you, Benny. Benny is playing some of the tunes from last night's finale on The Voice, and I asked him to kind of pull that music in. So thank you, Benny, for doing that. And there's a reason that I really asked him to do that, and I'll tell you what it is. It is because if you look at these folks that are in the finals for The Voice, at least the 4 people that are in there. One of the things you may be struck by, if you're not watching it, but I'll clue you in, is that these are people that have stayed in their life with their passion. So unlike some of the other reality things out there, there's no like you have to be under 28 years old to do this kind of deal, right? And so this is a way for people to show up where they are, regardless of where they are in their lives. And so part of the conversation today with Nancy Monson is, wait a minute, where am I on the compass of my life, midlife? Where am I in that direction? And have I given up my dream and my calling? And last night when I heard that song, I just went nuts. I mean, all of the songs, the original songs from these people, they're so talented. But the question is, are we willing to stay the course? And I know you're going to talk about that. These folks on The Voice get to work with a coach, Nancy. I mean, they ended up in a reality competition and they got to work with some of the top people in the field. And that relationship with their mentors along the way has made an enormous difference in how they showed up last night. And that's part of what we're talking about today. So let's let folks know about the workshop that you're going to be doing, because this is part of the idea of not having to make these changes, transitions alone.
Yeah. And thanks, Pat. Yeah, absolutely. I would never have I probably would have, but it would have been far more painful than it was to go through my own midlife transition, because I got hit every which way you can imagine. In a period of 18 months, my entire life fell apart, including my health. And without my spiritual family, without working with a coach, a mentor, a guide, through that process, I don't know how it would have been far more difficult for me to come through that in a way that really served my greater joy and my greater fulfillment. And it's really supported me in who I am today. So it's really, to me, it's essential if a person is really serious about bringing out their full potential, living a meaningful life, which is basically the midlife transition, is transitioning from a place of mastery. Okay, my ego's mastered whatever I've put my attention on, and this transition from mastery to meaning. That's really the piece where we go from living a more outer ego directed life to a more soul directed, which is a more meaningful, which in the end is far more fulfilling. So most of the time what happens for people is there's this restlessness, as you talked about. I need something more meaningful. I've done everything that I had planned. I've done everything they told me to do. I've done everything that I thought was going to bring me fulfillment, and I'm still not feeling fulfilled. And that's the call of the soul, to help awaken to a deeper, more fulfilling, more meaningful life. And as we talked about, that can happen at any age almost. Like you were saying, these young people are called. Some people are called earlier, some people are called later. And in my experience, yeah, I went through my midlife transition, but it hasn't stopped. I still, right now, I'm going through another huge life transition. But it's because I've made this commitment to fully bring out my soul's potential. And that means really living my life from a very different way than how society, traditional notions of what it's like to be successful.
Yeah. And this is really kind of the interesting part of this. We come up with all sorts of ways for us to desensitize ourselves to the reality of living a great life. And we do it in the most interesting ways. It's not like we sit there and say, "Oh, I've just given up." Although we might, right?
We might say that. Yes, people do that.
Yeah. But this is really the place where we look at, okay, Nancy, when does it really happen? I mean, we briefly talked about times, but we have this other idea about it. It's like, if I don't do it now, blah blah blah. Oh, and then okay, once I go through the midlife, okay, I'm done. But is that really how this works?
In my experience, no.
Yeah.
In my experience, it goes back to that restlessness, that lack of true, deeper fulfillment. There's that great statement that I can never quite get right. Many are called, few actually, respond, and even fewer are willing to go through the process of really doing the work to bring out their full potential. Mm-hmm. We all live such smaller lives than what we are meant to live, than what we were born to live. Marianne Williamson talks about, the greatest fear is not that we're not good enough. It's that we're more powerful than we can imagine. And most people are not willing to break out of those mental limiting, that mental cage that we've put ourselves in to be acceptable in society, to get love, to get the whatever goodies that we want, whether it's the right job, whether it's the right partner, whether it's the right lifestyle, all of those things. And our whole culture is set up to measure our worth by these external signposts or visuals. What's true is we're all designed to live our unique expression of our soul's purpose. And that is something that's not looked at in our society. It's not cultivated. It's not available easily. People have to really be serious about seeking that out. And so the challenge is, the challenge for people is, are you willing to break out of that cultural mold and really step into the unique potential that you are designed to express? And it takes courage, because it means facing all those limiting beliefs about, am I good enough? Will I be acceptable? Will I be supported? Will everybody leave me? Will I not have any money? I mean, all of those fears have to be faced and transcended to really step into the full expression. But the goal, the payoff, is a life of deep satisfaction and meaning. And the truth is, when you do live in alignment with your soul, nature responds and will support you in that. And that's something that people, it's hard. People need to really learn how to trust that they will be supported.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think that is so important, or I'd like you to talk about anyway, is the idea of what does this actually mean when we use the terms passage and transition. There is that language, passage and transition. And whenever we hear those words, we're kind of like, all right, from what to what? What is actually going on here? What's happening to me? Am I going to emerge differently? Am I going to be the same person? Am I going to be a different person? All of the above. What is going to actually happen to me, Nancy?
Yeah, that's great. And that is such a common, I mean, I went through that myself. And we talked about this a little bit on the last show, about those phases, excuse me, about the phases of transition, where there's the dissolving first. That is the old life, either from my own initiative or things that happened to me. Like for me, both my parents passed away. For some, it's the children have now gone off to college and I have the empty nest. What do I do? So sometimes life itself brings this opportunity to shed the roles that we've been playing. So it's about dissolving the life, that no longer has life, dissolving the parts of our life that are dead. I'm not going to be a mother in the same way that I was before. Maybe I've just been laid off, because of whatever. I'm not going to be that engineer anymore. I'm not going to be that worker anymore. Or maybe my partner has decided to leave. Okay, I'm not going to be a wife anymore, or husband. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's this outer part of life that really does cause us to re-examine. Wow, I thought, the ego gets attached, identified with those roles, and the roles start to fall away. Or I don't want to do this anymore. My job was becoming so toxic that it was hurting my health to go to it. So I had to quit or pay the price physically and emotionally from working in an environment that wasn't healthy for me.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of those things that can happen. And then we have to be willing to let go and let that fall away, which is scary for the ego to have those things that we've identified with to fall away. And then there's a time of exploration, like the fire of new life. Where do I find myself being drawn to? Oh, I used to have this dream of being a chef. Gosh, go explore. I used to have a dream of being a guitar player. Okay, go explore. So exploring where there's life. Sometimes it's old dreams that come back, old passions that come back that want to be explored. Sometimes it's a new one. Yeah. And then at one point, after having all of that exploration, things will start to coalesce and a vision will come. If we take the time to step back and go, okay, what have I learned from letting go and exploring? What is now available? What's the vision that is a possibility for a new life, a new expression of myself? And then bringing that into form, bringing that into the earth.
Yeah,
so
because we know this, right? Mm-hmm. We know that the universe does not like a vacuum. But it's hard to get abundance in there when we're all jammed up with stuff. Exactly. Let's take a short break, everyone. When we come back, we'll be talking about how do we get support in this? And what does it mean? Does it always mean giving things up? Or does it mean bringing to the forefront a purpose that was so far greater than anything you can imagine? And how does Nancy work with each of the people she works with to help them do this? And then we've got a special surprise later on in the show. We have an announcement about the contest that we held here. Nancy's going to take us through that and some special gifts. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
Silver horses and tumbleweeds in your garden. Don't light my house on you leaving like
Hi, this is Leslie Fontaine, and my show is Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com. When we're bogged down with our emotions, the hardships that plague us in our relationships, at work, our finances, we literally can't see the higher plane where we could be operating from. Tune in to Leslie Fontaine, Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
If you're one of the millions of Americans suffering from anxiety, you probably know how powerless and out of control this emotion can make you feel. This is why it is so important to remember that anxiety is created by your mind, which means that you can learn to use your mind to uncreate it. Hello, my name is Dr. Friedman Schaub. My award-winning book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, provides you with a step-by-step breakthrough process to understand and resolve the root causes of your anxiety and build a solid foundation of confidence and inner peace. If you are ready to take your power back, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com. That's thefearandanxietysolution.com, or call 866-903-6463. That's 866-903-MIND.
This is Peggy Snow, practitioner at Stellar Reflections, with a Stellar Reflections Minute. So many people these days are trying to find ways to relieve their stress. What happens to our breathing when we're feeling overwhelm and stress? When we tune in, we realize that we're either holding our breath or taking very shallow breath to signal the body that all is well, which most of the time it is. Sometimes all that is needed is a nice, deep breath to break the cycle. First, exhale to get all the stale air out by engaging the abdominal muscles and blowing gently. Next, take a nice full breath in, feeling it fill your body all the way down to your hips. Release fully and enjoy the freedom of movement. Notice how your body feels. Do you feel refreshed? Calmness is only a breath away. This has been a Stellar Reflections Minute. For more information about what we offer at Stellar Reflections, visit us at stellarreflections.com or call 425-999-9836. That's 425-999-9836.
What if your body and mind were the compasses to the secrets, mysteries, and magic of life? Glenna Rice, co-host of The Questionable Parent, is inviting you to access all that is possible. Glenna is a 10-year certified veteran access consciousness facilitator who offers an amazing variety of life-changing classes and workshops. Work with Glenna from anywhere, with teleclasses and workshops all over the globe. To learn more and see Glenna's current schedule of events, classes, and workshops, visit glennarice.com.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Dr. Pat, Nancy Monson here. I was actually alive when that song was originally done.
I know, me too.
Oh, here, ready, everybody out there, you ready for a scary moment? I actually know the words to that song. All right. Talk about a passage. Nancy, before we get back to the topic at hand, which is it's just a brilliant one. For those of you out there, if you have a question, want to get some help, are you like in the middle of this here? Understanding the deeper process and purpose of Midlife Passage with Everyday Spirituality co-host Nancy Monson. But 1-800-930-2819 if you want to get a little assistance if you're stuck in the middle. Nancy, again, you have a special gift for people and also consultations. Can you please let folks know how they can get this incredible gift you have, and how do they contact you?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So I have a free report, a free guide that they can get off on my website, and it's Understanding the Deeper Process and Purpose of Midlife. And it goes into more detail about what happens. I just did a super high level of the 4 phases of the midlife transition, or any kind of major transition that we go through. And it gives a little more background. If they go to my website, everydayspirituality.com, they'll see the option there to download my free gift. They can go directly to that page by everydayspirituality.com /
Hi, welcome.
My gift to you. That's everydayspirituality.com / my gift to you. So that's how they can get the free report, the free guide. And if they'd like to just, have a chat with me, I'm happy to do free consultations to help people get clear on what's going on in their life and help them determine how to go forward in a more soulful, more aware way. And they can go to everydayspirituality.com / apply, APPLY. And they can go there and schedule a time to talk to me about what's going on and help them get clear. Because as I said, myself and the women that I've worked with and the executives that I've worked with that are dealing with this, it's much, much more kind to yourself and compassionate to yourself to have someone to support you who understands what's happening, who knows the way, right? Who's been through it.
Yeah. And I think that's really kind of what we're talking about here today, is that for many of us, first of all, we don't know we're in the middle of it. Secondly, we put our own sense of meaning on the it of it. And I don't know about you, Nancy, but I'll tell you, it's hard to imagine you're even going to get out. You're even going to be a person that can experience joy, right? So how do we get to some support on this? Because if you're smack dab in the middle of it, it is uncomfortable. And now I don't know if this is true for men, but let's just talk about women for a minute. You know, as women, we have this other passage that we attach and associate to midlife. You know, this other passage that we have. And so it gets ultimately confusing. But, you know, this is really not about having physical changes in our body. This is about the soul, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's all wrapped up. I mean, the soul is the essence. And when, you know, and men have their own version, but women, you know, have this whole biochemical change that's happening that just amplifies the entire process. And that's why I feel called to, you know, I'm totally happy. I work with men as well as women, but I do feel a special call to help women through the midlife transition because it's so complex with the physiological changes that are happening, as well as the spiritual changes, the changes in the psyche that are happening, and to bring those together and have meaning about and understanding what's going on. You know, I've worked with clients who've had recurring dreams about losing their purse. And when I asked them, well, what does it mean when you lose your purse? She says, oh, that's my identity. That's like my driver's license and all my I'm like, So the soul was communicating to her through images in her dreams that she was transforming. Her identity was falling away. But she didn't know how to interpret that. And once I explained that to her, she's like, oh, yes, now I understand why I've been having all these weird feelings, you know, and not wanting to do the same things that I did before. So when we have the meaning, it helps us to understand and be at peace and be supportive even of the process of transformation that happens.
Well, you know, this is really part of the conversation is, you know, to actually recognize there are things going on, right? And we're thinking about, well, wait a minute, is this process something that's going to help me? How does it get me to where I ultimately want to go? And how many times in a lifetime will I have to go through this?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I thought, you know, and I had a dear friend who is several years older than me, and when I was hitting my midlife, I talked to her about it, and she just laughed and she says, "It's just beginning." But there's what I found, and I think this is because I made this commitment. I made a commitment when I went through my spiritual guidance training, you know, so long ago, that I was going to live my soul's full purpose. I wanted to be devoted. My ego basically married my soul and said, I'm willing to do whatever's necessary to bring out the full value of what I came here to experience in life. And when you make that commitment, I forget who it was that said it, but I remember reading a passage that says, once you make that commitment to follow a spiritual life, to really be on an spiritually evolutionary path, it's like you can't go back. Mm-hmm. Something shifts in your physiology that says, okay, you're on this path. And I know that's true for me. You know, I spent a year back at the Maharishi University of Management getting a second master's in Vedic studies, in really understanding the technologies of consciousness and enlightenment and that whole process. And I really feel that shifted my physiology to the place that I can't go back, that I keep going through these transformations, but with my support, with understanding now, with my the technologies and the practices that I have, and I do them regularly. They help me for each of these transitions that I'm going through, knowing that it's going to bring out a greater, more golden expression of my soul. It's easier and easier. It can be very cathartic, but I understand, and I have the support, and I have the practices, and I have the awareness that supports the process. So it's not so disruptive to my life.
Nancy, this is something that I'd like us to talk about, because when we start this process, whatever it is, and whenever it does happen, there are other people in our lives. And a lot of the times, I'm not sure if you had to explain this to your family, to your friends, but we have no explanation, right, that was going to make any sense to anybody, correct? No explanation. I think that we don't even talk about that enough to know that there is going to be a dialogue that may have to happen between ourselves, our partners, our family, our children. I mean, for me, it was like, what? You're not taking that big corporate job? Really? How do you help people with that? Because there is that part of this, isn't there?
Yeah, it's breaking away from the expectations. I have a dear friend who I worked with at Anderson Consulting. I have my other master's degree is an MBA, and I did the whole corporate consulting gig, which is what almost it cost me a lot of my physical health, because it was super hard on my physiology. I'm not designed to do that kind of lifestyle. So after about 4 years, I was in a pretty bad shape. But my dear friend, she is incredibly brilliant at change management. And when she hit midlife, she's just a year younger than me. So, I was with her and helped her a lot during that passage. And what came out for her is both. So she was called to go and study shamanism. She's now been studying shamanism for 7 or 8 years, and she brings that in a very innovative way. She brings her shamanistic practices and awareness into her consulting. I mean, she still does change management. She's a high-level executive for a very large company, and she's been able to integrate both of those. So it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to give it all up and go, sit in a cave somewhere, or, to give up my life, the one that I've had. It means being willing to let go and be in service of what is my highest calling. And she's done tremendous work in a cultural environment, organizational cultural environment that was highly patriarchal, highly male dominated, and she's made a huge positive impact in that organization by integrating in a very very gentle and aware way some of these concepts that from her shamanic training. So it's not about throwing your whole life out the window. It can be, sometimes that happens, but it's about being willing to explore the possibilities and see what wants to emerge.
We're going to skip the break here because I want to make sure we do talk about what the end game is. And also we have an announcement to make. And that's why I think it's important to talk about what the end game is. Sometimes we don't think our soul knows the way, and we lose faith or we get discouraged. And then all of a sudden something might happen. I think, Nancy, right now, I think it's really important to talk about the contest that was just held, and what was the motivation behind that for you, and the process, the decisions that were made, and the people that showed up to participate, because I think it ties right into this idea of rebirthing.
Yeah, it was exciting when we talked about the possibility of doing a contest. My purpose is to help people who are really ready to awaken to their soul's potential. That's my purpose, is to help people migrate from one level of consciousness to another. That's the technical definition of my purpose. And, I've done a boatload of that work myself, going through all different levels of transformation. And it's my life. It's my life's journey. So when we talked about having this contest, I really felt like, it's such a challenge for people to really make that choice and be supported in that choice. And it is my life's work to do that. And I really wanted to help someone who really was ready and was willing and felt like they were not able to make that step forward because life wasn't supporting them. So it was very exciting when we talked about putting this together, and the opportunity for me to be able to gift someone an insight into their soul's design and their soul's purpose, so that they could get past, they could have the awareness that can help them start their journey and then hopefully get the support that they need.
Well, and, this has really been the process of this. So folks were able to write to you and, to talk about what was emerging in their lives, correct?
Yes.
And you were able to get through these and then ultimately make the selection. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, Pat. I mean, the sharing, authentic sharing that all of the people who applied for the contest, who entered, just really touched my heart. And I'll tell you, it was not easy at all. And what I've decided to do is, I definitely will be giving one of my Get Soul Clarity Now readings away. But what I want to do for the others that have also applied for this is I'm going to also contact them and invite them to sign up for the free consultation, and I'll be able to help them at least get clear on what's going on and how to take the next step, because I was so deeply touched by all of the contestants' willingness to be so vulnerable and to share what's going on.
Yeah. So are we going to announce on air?
Yeah. So the one that I selected, and it was mainly because I was just so deeply touched. I mean, very deeply touched by her situation and how she feels like she really can't move forward, is Annette Slater, Slater. Yeah.
Great.
So I'll be contacting her. And then, as I said, I'll also be reaching out to the other contestants because they were all so deeply touching.
Yeah, and I think Annette's going to be coming on air, and we're also going to really follow this journey because, initiation is only part of the journey, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a place that we get to go with all of that takes us at the other end. And part of that really is, how you've been discussing and talking about this for people. There's something that I wanted to ask you about, and it has to do with the soul, and it has to do with how we get to show up. Now, I know that you have an upcoming event, a workshop that you're doing, Living a Soul-Directed Life. And part of living a soul-directed life is also going through these passages. Yes. So talk about the passage process, because I don't know about you, but I'm in the passage, and here we are. And I'm just like, are we done yet? Are we done yet? Are we done yet?
Yeah. And, this is the ego wanting clarity. And the truth is the soul is mysterious. And the alchemical journey of the soul to individuate, for the psyche to transform, to be a greater, more golden representation of the soul, it's also mysterious. So it takes as long as it takes. That's why it's really important to understand the signposts and know how to support the journey and to be patient with the process. Now, I have a program that I work with people that's a 9-month program. And I base that on, some of my own experience, but also the metaphor of birthing a baby. It takes 9 months for us to grow and birth a baby, which is the initiation of the baby's life. So I have a coaching program, mentoring program, where I work with someone for 9 months to help them actually birth their new version, their soul's greater expression. And we talk about all these 4 phases, and we give exercises, we do reflection. There's all kinds of practices to support that process. So it's really important to be at peace with the process, and that's why understanding and having recognition, getting support for the process is so essential, because it's mysterious. It has its own timing, and it's not uncommon for us to constantly going, when am I going to get out of this? When am I going to get out of this? I can tell you my own self, there were points where I thought this is never going to end.
I know.
But it does. It does.
I know. And, I still go through moments of those, because I think this really tags back to what you said before, and it's this idea that we only have to go through it once, and that once we're at a certain age, or if we're not at a certain age, we're like premature in the process. But I will tell you, if you look at those folks that are on The Voice right now, that singing competition, those people are in the passage right now.
Yeah,
they're in a pivotal point of their lives. Win, lose, whatever it is, they have done something in their lives which has tapped into their soul's journey. And that's really the part of this, Nancy, too, is this is not always just going and sitting on a mountain and waiting for something to happen. You actually got to do something here.
You got to choose. You got to choose that you want to do this, because what most people do when the soul calls them is they find ways to distract the message. They, and at the worst, they, turn to the aholics, right? Workaholics, gymaholics, alcoholics, drugaholics, whatever it is to distract
sugaraholics,
foodaholics, right? Any of those addictions to numb out, to not hear the voice of the soul. But and that's a choice. But then they lose the opportunity to bring out this beautiful gift of who they truly are. That was their destiny to express. And that's why I feel so called to help people. That's why I'm running this workshop at a conference in Los Angeles next month, is because I really want to get the message out there. That's why I agreed, why I wanted to be on your show, and to get the message out there. There is another way that will bring you huge, huge fulfillment, but it does mean having the courage to break through. It's break through our own prison that we have built for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I just had a vision of you, and it's really a weird vision. So we'll see where this goes. I had you going back to your former company and saying, you know what? I've got something that you all do not do. How about we get together and I deliver this to corporate America? That's my little vision I had right there as you were speaking about this today.
Well, that would be great.
Because here is what we know now. Corporate America doesn't really know what to do right now with what's going on with their employees. It was really good, Nancy, when we were all stuck in this economy thing. But now that people really believe they have the power to choose, they are absolutely not knowing what to do with retention. Thank you so much for today. Please give out your website. Let folks know how to contact you directly.
Yes, everydayspirituality.com. And they can contact me directly by going to the website or sending an email to info at everydayspirituality.com.
More to come from Nancy. For those of you out there, if you want to get unstuck in the middle, give her a call. Get some things moving. Get ready for all the abundance that you could possibly imagine. For us, check us out, thedrpatshow.com, transformationtalkradio.com. And by the way, if you go there and you start to see and the website's changed and the images are changed, yes, we are now getting into a phase of all these things I've been talking to you about, just asking for your patience in the transition. All right, everybody. Nancy, thank you so much. Let's take a shorty, everyone. Next up, Dr. Friedman's in the house. We'll be right back.